Is Bitcoin repeating 2022 price action? We also have 4 trade updates today, 4 of them, guys, and every single one of them is interesting. Now, liquidity has been swept. We have structure that is shifting, and amongst all of the volatility, I'm already positioned. This market is not random right now. It's setting up for something big. And if this fractal plays out the way it did before for Bitcoin, we're about to witness a potential explosion. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Let's aim for 20 likes on this video. And you can also join the free Telegram link in the description below, because when panic turns into opportunity, you don't want to be reacting, you want to be positioned. This is Bitcoin on Point, where I break down the market in real time and emotion free. Let's dive in. Now, studying the macro backdrop for today, and something big just shifted. After days of selling pressure, BlackRock's ETF just flipped back to buying. And we're talking about $78.5 million worth of Bitcoin. So this by far was not an emotional decision. This is institutional capital stepping back in. And institutions don't guess, they strategically position. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The so-called Trump insider. This is the same guy who he went silent after the October flash crash because he made $150 million in 20 minutes, right? But he's returned, and he's just opened a $130 million long ahead of today's urgent Fed announcement. So again, he hasn't been active for months, and he's suddenly back. And he's not short, he's gone long. So the timing of this isn't random. And we need to consider this as well. Whilst retail is scared, whales are actually buying. So when you look at all of it, this is classic liquidity psychology, right? Fear is being priced in potentially at a local bottom, and big players are positioning before expansion. Now, when big money starts stepping in during uncertainty, it usually means that they're expecting clarity. And what does clarity bring? Clarity brings volatility. So something is building. The question isn't whether a move is coming, it's whether you're actually positioned before it does. Now, when we tie all of these macro developments back into the charts, it creates a very interesting outlook. So with that in mind, let's start with our most eye-catching fractal of the day, which is Bitcoin on the daily time frame. And looking back at Bitcoin in 2022, it's very evident to see that now in 2026, we are potentially replicating a structure that led to expansion. So what we had back here in 2022 was a level of resistance created. Bitcoin then witnessed a very sharp sell-off and created this triangle compression. Now, this is where a liquidity hunt began. And what actually happened was the buy-side liquidity was swept, Bitcoin recovered, marked a higher low, rallied up into previous resistance, came back again for another higher low, and then broke out to the previous level of resistance that it actually fell from. Now, if you fast forward all of this to 2026, we have a similar scenario. Bitcoin created a level of resistance. It then crashed and has since been forming compression inside this triangle. Now, liquidity again to the buy side liquidity, has been swept. So if Bitcoin can continue to mark higher lows here, run up towards sort of 78K, mark an even larger higher low, and then look for the expansion, we could replicate the exact same scenario. So we have capitulation, compression, buy-side liquidity getting swept, and then the recovery back to resistance. The same in 2026. Resistance. We have corrections, forming compression inside a triangle. Buy-side liquidity has been swept. Mark higher lows, look for the expansion. So if this is to occur, Bitcoin is literally building a base, waiting to go. Now let's tie this over onto our 8-hour time frame, and this is where our trades actually come into today's video. Now, on the 8-hour, I stated this yesterday, we're not actually in a position yet, but what I'm actually looking for after the buy-side liquidity sweep here is for a rally back up towards sort of 68K. If Bitcoin gets that, that could open the possibility of a short, right? But we're not going to look at that until we actually get back up into this sort of orange box region or the 68 sort of K zone where that possibility lies. However, let's tie this over to our active trade on the 4-hour time frame. And this makes complete sense here in relation to waiting for the 8-hour short. So hear me out. We currently are in a trade with an entry at 65.3K. We have an SL at 63.8 and a take profit is 68.7. Now, the 68.7 is the interesting area because, again, looking at the liquidity sweep, what we're waiting for is a resistance at 68K to potentially look for a short. So our 4-hour long, the TP target is where we're looking for a short entry on the 8-hour. So do you see how it all ties in? This is how you capitalize on the liquidity hunts, right? The buy side liquidity has been taken on the 4-hour. Our trade is active, and we're now looking to run up to the previous level of resistance at 68K. And again, that 68K level of resistance is potentially where we're going to be eyeing a short scenario back down to mark another potential low. So it all ties in very well here, and we're capitalizing on Bitcoin as it unfolds. Now, with that in mind, our third trade update of the day is the JST trade. Now, yesterday we was looking at, we secured our entry, should I say, and we was looking at a rally up towards sort of 0.046, and we've got a full profit scenario at 0.048. Now, this hasn't actually come into fruition, but what we've actually done is moved our stop loss up to break even. So our risk is controlled. We're not going to suffer any significant losses at this moment in time. The trade is going relatively well, but again, if it does come down and lose support, it's break even, risk is controlled, and if we meet partial profit and strength resumes, we'll look to take off, and if strength does continue, then we're looking for that full profit execution, right? So JST is going perfectly fine. Risk is controlled, capital is minimized for losses, and our stop loss has been brought up to break even. Now, our last trade, and this is one we're looking at. This hasn't actually executed it right this second. We're waiting for our limit order to hit, right? However, if you zoom out here for fight, what you'll notice is that we had a massive sort of correction. But since these lows, this is where higher low formations have actually been building, right? So structure is getting really tight. And in fact, we had this level of resistance that was actually broken. And right now, this is where we're looking for that setup, right? So if the limit order gets hit and we do come back, and it might look a bit risky into this zone, right? Where our stop loss would sit, but this is where we could see that continued expansion up to our partial 1, 2, and 3 targets. Now, with these partial targets, this is all based on strength. If we do mark some sort of higher low, hit our limit order, and run up to partial 1, we may take something off of the board here if it's looking relatively weak and potentially looking to come back, so we secure something. However, if strength and momentum continues, this is where the potential partial 2 and 3 targets could be met for this trade. So the structure is pretty clean. We had a massive correction. There's now higher lows building. A previous level of resistance has been broken. We're looking for that sort of entry. And if it comes to that partial order, this is where our targets, comes to our limit order. I do apologize. This is where we're looking for that entry and these partial targets to be secured. So we're active. Guys, we are active. We've just broken down Bitcoin replicating 2022 and 2026, where buy-side liquidity has been swept, potentially gearing up for major expansion. Our 8-hour short trade setup is waiting for execution at 68K and above, but we're also active in a 4-hour long, waiting to rally up to that 68K since buy-side liquidity has been taken, and we're now looking strong. The JST trade is at break even, so risk is, structured and capital is protected. And we also have fight, which is waiting for an entry after a significant downtrend and breaking out of a major level of resistance. Now look, all of this can be tracked and managed on the Profits Precision dashboard. It's where I monitor everything in our $10,000 to $100,000 trading challenge. And guys, let's be honest. Look, we've got 5 wins and 4 losses, but the aim, in the process of turning 10K to 100K, that's going to happen. It's no big deal. We have a 55% win rate at this current moment in time with 9 trades taken and $589 in profit. That's roughly 6%. I wish it was 60%. We're currently 6% up on this trading challenge. Now, again, as I mentioned, all trades, executions, stop losses, entries, it's all shared in our live Telegram. So the link for that is in the description. Make sure you come and join the community. And as always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Give everything a thumbs up. Until next time, I'll see you in the next update.